it is up to you to decide whether or not it's in your best interest to file your taxes. So that's kind of the approach we've taken at UWKC is that we can't tell anybody whether or not they should file, but we are trying to help folks have as much information as possible so that they can make a really informed decision.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation about taxes with Ryan McFerran, United Way Senior Financial Stability Program Manager, and Ramon Ortiz, an assistant teaching professor at the University of Washington Law School and managing director of the law school's Federal Tax Clinic. We'll discuss topics such as United Way's free tax preparation campaign that is currently in full swing and information for ITIN filers. We'll also provide information on one of our most popular free tax prep sites at Southcenter Mall, and we'll discuss a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. For many folks filing their taxes this year, concerns are predictable, if not commonplace. They're wondering whether they'll be able to file before the tax deadline, whether they'll get a refund or owe money, and what qualifies as an itemized deduction. For others, however, the concerns are more pronounced. There are some of our neighbors, particularly those in immigrant communities, who understand that by law they're obligated to file their taxes, yet they are worried about the risks of disclosing personal information, particularly amid the nation's immigration crackdown. There are also concerns around accessing an individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN. That is a 9-digit tax processing number that the IRS uses to those who must file a federal tax return but are ineligible for Social Security numbers. Those who use ITINs include undocumented immigrants and foreign nationals. The use of ITINs came into question last year, when, according to published reports, the acting head of the IRS resigned amid an IRS deal struck with the White House to share undocumented immigrants' taxpayer data with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. However, in February, the nonprofit organization UNIDOS published on its website that no court had authorized the IRS to share taxpayer data with Homeland Security or Immigration and Customs Enforcement. UNIDOS said that court orders blocking data sharing are still in place. Then there are the possible costs of ITINs. IRS.gov says that obtaining an ITIN is free to those who apply directly with the agency, by mail, or in person at an IRS Taxpayer Assistance Center. Those concerned about obtaining an ITIN through the IRS can do so by using an authorized certified assistant agent or professional service. But going that route can cost as much as $350 according to the IRS. At United Way of King County, we provide a free tax preparation campaign for individual filers making less than $80,000 a year or less than $96,000 a year for non-single filers. We have nearly 24 in-person tax prep sites throughout King County, and we offer a virtual site. Funded by United Way, the IRS, and the City of Seattle, the free tax prep campaign offers tax preparation by specialists who help clients understand their unique tax situations and take advantage of credits like the Earned Income Credit and the Working Families Tax Credit. Many United Way free tax prep sites offer ways for people to apply for or renew ITINs, also free of charge. Many sites offer language interpreters for people who prefer to be served in a language other than English. We are also partnering with the University of Washington Law School's Federal Tax Clinic, which provides free legal assistance for low-income individuals that have disputes with the IRS. Also, United Way prioritizes the safety of clients and volunteers and empowers tax site managers to minimize risk, protect vulnerable community members, and prevent access to sensitive information. Our staff are continually monitoring immigration enforcement activities, both within our community and across the nation, and we are updating site response plans as necessary. For this episode of Hourglass, we sat down with Ryan McFerran, United Way Senior Financial Stability Program Manager, and Ramon Ortiz, University of Washington Assistant Teaching Professor and Managing Director of the Law School's Federal Tax Clinic. We'll discuss topics including information for ITIN filers. But we began with Ryan discussing what he's seen this year regarding turnout at United Way free tax campaign sites.
As far as serving the community, I think what we're seeing overall is fewer people coming so far, especially people from certain communities, folks who need a individual taxpayer ID number to file, an ITIN number. We are ready and prepared to help them with every step of the process of filing, including renewing or applying for that ITIN. However, we are seeing fewer people come to us at our United Way tax site. So things are lower. However, we also are working really closely with a lot of other free tax providers throughout King County and throughout the state. And so we do know that although we may be seeing fewer folks at our tax sites, some of those people are discovering through some of the work in our partnerships that there's a tax site provided by another organization that they can go to that's either closer or meets their specific needs. And then, of course, we still have a few weeks left of the tax season, so there's still a lot to be seen.
Great. And so, Ramon, what advice do you have for anyone still deciding whether they should or shouldn't file this year?
Well, first, thank you for having me in the podcast. Everyone should file. Of course, there's times in which taxpayers do not have a filing requirement, and those are unique situations depending on the income. Most of it will be very low type of income, whether they have wages as a W-2 employee or whether they're self-employed individuals. But our recommendation is that everyone that has a filing requirement should always file, including individuals that don't have a legal status in the U.S. Because part of the legalization program and some of most of the immigration benefits do relate to a specific and key important question, which is, has the taxpayer complied with all the filing requirements, including a collection activities, as filing and collection activities as well. So it's very important for individuals that perhaps may be on the fence about filing to go ahead and file. Also, there's a limitation in the timeline when individuals can request a refund, and that's triggered by the filing deadline as well as the time in which the individuals have actually paid advanced deposits into their individual accounts during the year.
And so for Ryan, if someone still needs to file this year, what should they know?
If somebody still needs to file this year, they should know that there's still plenty of opportunity to do so. And there's a lot of different ways to file and to do so for free. So if anybody is still at the point where they haven't yet filed their taxes, but they're planning to do so, first thing I would recommend folks to do is either go to the United Way of King County website and go to the free tax help page, or visit the statewide free tax prep service locator, which is myfreetaxeswa.org. From there, you'll be able to review different filing options depending on eligibility, income level, types of tax situations. You can also use My Free Taxes WA to find your nearest in-person tax site. You can also access some of the virtual tax site services that we offer through United Way of King County. So first thing to keep in mind is, yes, it may feel like the deadline is quickly approaching. However, there is still a lot of opportunity to file. Do so for free. If you are going to be visiting a in-person tax site, especially those that we run here at United Way of King County, you want to make sure that you are showing up to those tax sites earlier in the day, close to when they're opening, and you're prepared when you're coming with photo ID, a social security card, or proof of ITIN, and then any sort of tax documents that you need. We are walk-in only at our tax sites, and so we do see a lot of people coming to us, and typically anybody who's showing up in later in the day, we may have to ask them to come back a different day, or hopefully in those instances, we'll be able to redirect them to another tax site nearby that has more capacity. Also, folks should be aware that at least some people have an opportunity to file a little bit later this year compared to previous years. Because of the flooding and the storm damage that happened in December here in Washington. Certain counties across the state, including King County, Pierce County, Snohomish County, now have a May 1st filing deadline. So not everybody within those counties is necessarily eligible for that. But typically, if you're a resident or a business owner in those counties, plus 10 other counties across the state, you will have a little bit more time to file. And so at United Way of King County, what we're doing is we are working to extend the schedules for some of our tax sites so that we can help folks if they do decide to take advantage of that extended filing deadline. However, one thing to be aware of is that if you do choose to wait until after the 15th to file and you still do want to meet the filing deadline, file your taxes this year, it's really important to be aware that a lot of the other free tax resources may not be available to you. The ones that are typically available but not offered through United Way of King County.
Great. And so, Ramon, how does University of Washington's Federal Tax Clinic help people, and who is eligible for assistance?
That's a great question. We assist low-income taxpayers that are within the 250% poverty level as calculated every year, mostly by the Department of Health and Human Services at the federal level. We do represent certain taxpayers in IRS controversies. We represent them before the U.S. Tax Court and other U.S. federal tax courts as well, the U.S. District Court and other courts as well. We can also provide some assistance and representation for specific state tax issues. That's also within the levels of assistance that we provide to taxpayers. One of the most complex cases that we handle, of course, is in U.S. tax court. One of the main issues is when taxpayers do eventually end up owing money to the IRS because you have associated penalties and interest that can almost be more than 50% of the amount that initially was due. So it's important for taxpayers to, number one, file on time, specifically if they will owe money to the IRS. But also, don't forget that there's payment requirements as well that they should be making, whether it's estimated tax payments or payment the balances that are due in time to avoid these harsh penalties. And a lot of the penalties, especially about 25% of the penalties, will be accruing for the first 6 months. So it tends to increase the amount that the taxpayers owe. In addition, we provide other services. Sometimes we may be able to file taxes for the taxpayers when it relates to a tax controversy. And we can also assist taxpayers with tax education as well as outreach. And sometimes we can do consultations for taxpayers that do not meet the income requirements.
Great. So, Ryan, how does the recently passed millionaire's tax affect people today?
That is a great question. And I think kind of the simple answer is it really doesn't affect most folks today. The tax itself is something that will not go into effect until 2029. And so the way that it'll work, as I understand it, is that anybody who makes over $1 million in 2028 in earned income, so this is money that they earn, not necessarily investment income, they'll be taxed on any dollar above that $1 million mark. And so anybody who's listening who might fall into that income level, that tax bracket, just be aware that you may end up paying a little bit more in taxes. You'll be paying a state income tax, which is the first in our state, in a few years. However, what I think is really more important, what I want folks to be more aware of, is some of the potential benefits of the millionaire's taxes. And that includes expansion of the Working Families Tax Credit, which is our state's tax credit. It's actually a sales tax rebate. However, it is something that folks can apply for through the process of filing their federal tax returns, something that we help folks to apply for through our own free tax preparation services. And so if you're just now hearing about the Working Families Tax Credit, I would definitely encourage you to look into it and see, is this something that maybe you were eligible for and you weren't aware of? one important thing to be aware of is that the tax credit, which was launched in 2023, if you did not claim your 2023 credit, so for the 2022 tax year, then you'll have only until the end of this year, December 31st of 2026, to claim that credit. So if you're just hearing about working families tax credit for the first time, I would encourage you to definitely look into it, see if maybe you're eligible for it, and then complete the process of claiming that credit, which you can do so through filing. There's also a separate application process through the state's Department of Revenue. And then as far as how WFTC, Working Families Tax Credit, will be impacted by the English tax, there will be an expansion starting in 2029. And so previously, anybody who was 24 years between the ages of 18 and 24 and didn't have any children, they wouldn't be eligible for that credit. That is now a change that's planned based on the passing of the millionaire's tax. And so single filers who are between 18 and 24 will have an opportunity to claim that credit. Also, folks who are 65 and older will have an opportunity to claim that credit as well. And so if you're a younger person listening to this, or if you have, somebody who's a teenager right now and will be, between 18 and 24 in 2029, it's good to know that they may be eligible to get some extra money if they were to file their own taxes through the Working Families Tax Credit. Also, there's other benefits that are hopefully going to be coming as a result of the millionaire's tax, like a removal of sales tax on certain necessities like diapers and hygiene products. So something just to be aware of, and then other benefits. And so really, again, folks don't really need to do anything right now when it comes to the millionaire's tax, especially if you're not somebody who's going to be impacted by the tax directly. However, do be on the lookout for some of the additional benefits that you might be eligible for because of the additional revenue that'll be coming to the state through the millionaire's tax.
Great. And so this last question is for both of you. From what you can see, why are people choosing not to file their taxes this year? And for those who are choosing not to file, what can they expect from next tax season?
Well, number one, let me reemphasize again the importance of filing the tax return, especially for low-income individuals. In many occasions, there are refunds available, especially for families that have children that are under a certain income in terms of wages that would be eligible for the earned income tax credit and child tax credit. Some families that are not eligible for the earned income tax credit, they can be eligible for the child tax credit. And that's a significant amount of money in refunds they can obtain. Not filing on time, you have a limited amount of time to seek a refund. The rule is basically you can get a refund if you request or file the request for refund within 3 years when the taxes were due, or within 2 years when you pay the taxes. So sometimes if you miss a tax season, if you're getting a refund, that may not be critical, but again, then you still are not in compliance with the tax laws. You haven't filed, but the penalties for failure to file will not apply because you will be getting a refund. But the risk is that you're going to leave that money on the table and you will not be able to claim that if you wait for too long. I think the fear of filing should not be there, whether it's this year or next year or in the future. Number one, for individuals that need an ITIN to file and perhaps they don't have the legal status, there's a way to get the documents certified for filing and request an ITIN without having to submit the documents to the ITIN unit in Texas, or perhaps having to go to a taxpayer assistance center that the IRS have in a federal building. There's providers out there that are certified to be able to, look at your documents and submit the petition without having to submit the documents. So I think that fear should be a lot less now. It should not be within taxpayers, and especially the taxpayers that are seeking immigration benefits as well. They should be filing because then they may run into some issues with answering the questions on the immigration applications.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just to add to, Ramon's points, I think what we're seeing at a lot of our community-based tax sites and hearing from community members and partner organizations that we work with is there is just a lot of fear. Some of it is driven by misinformation. Some of it is not misinformation, but there is a lot of competing information. And so, I think folks who may be more susceptible or exposed to immigration enforcement might be feeling a little less safe going to a tax site in person as a place where people are gathering together, community spaces. There's personal information that's kind of being shared as part of our standard process and as part of the required process. And so that may not feel like a safe environment for folks. One thing we've done for our United Way of King County tax sites is make sure that we do have really robust plans in place if there is any sort of ICE or other immigration enforcement presence at any of the tax sites. Also, has not happened. And also, as far as we've heard, and we are really well connected with free tax assistance organizations across the country, there hasn't been any instances of immigration enforcement specifically targeting free tax community spaces.
Okay.
So people can feel a little bit more safe knowing that there's no precedence here. There's also a fear of data exposure. There was an agreement in place previously between the Department of Homeland Security and the IRS so that folks' information could have potentially been shared for immigration enforcement purposes. That is something that was struck down by the courts back in November. However, there was some misinformation and some unclear information that was provided after that. And so I think people are still not quite sure what's true, what's not true. And, the thing I hope folks hear and understand is that, it is up to you to decide whether or not it's in your best interest to file your taxes. So that's kind of the approach we've taken at UWKC is that we can't tell anybody whether or not they should file, but we are trying to help folks have as much information as possible so that they can make a really informed decision. And then, of course, we have no role or any place in penalizing folks who decide not to file. And in fact, one thing that we are really focused on next year is that we want to make sure that if people are deciding not to file their 2025 tax returns, we are ready and waiting for people who need to file 2 years of returns come next tax season.
Cool.
And so that includes through a partnership with an organization called Healthier Here. We're going to be expanding some of the ITIN assistance services that we're able to provide at some of our tax sites through close partnerships with Express Credit Union and Seattle Credit Union. We're also planning to increase some of the on-site language interpretation options and services. And so we're hoping that folks will eventually, if they don't feel safe doing so, filing this year. We're hoping that they feel safe come next tax season. Mm-hmm. We're hoping that they think about United Way as a place that they can file their taxes. And also we're ready to meet some of those additional needs like ITIN renewal and any sort of language interpretation needs as well.
Ramon and Ryan, thanks for talking tax today on Hourglass.
Thank
you very much.
For more information about United Way of King County's free tax preparation campaign, log on to myfreetaxeswa.org. For more information about the University of Washington Law School's Federal Tax Clinic, log on to the law school's website at law.uw.edu. Then click on Academics, Experiential Learning, Clinics, and Federal Tax. Once again, United Way of King County offers a free tax preparation campaign site at Westfield Southcenter Mall in Tukwila. But we realize that Southcenter Mall has more than 180 stores, more than a dozen restaurants, and a movie theater, all spanning 3 levels. Finding our free tax prep location might be challenging for some, so Ryan McFerran, United Way Senior Financial Stability Program Manager, is here to offer some info on the location of our free tax prep site at Southcenter. And here's a hint. It's not where it was located last year.
This year, we're up on the 3rd floor. We're in their Sky Terrace space, so right by the movie theater. And so if you're coming to the Southcenter Mall, you'll want to go to the third floor. You can actually go to the top of one of the parking garages. The parking garage nears the AMC movie theater. Go to the very top and you'll be able to walk right in the doors and see the tax site from there. Also, if you've been there before and you weren't sure where it was, you can now go back and there's going to be some additional signage and advertisements helping folks to get to that tax site. And especially important for our Southcenter Mall tax site is that it is one of our locations that will be open so that folks who want to use the May 1st filing deadline, we can help them. We will also be keeping that site open all the way through the end of May 31st, so that anybody who misses the deadline, decides they don't need to meet the deadline, we can still help them.
Once again, for more information about United Way of King County's free tax preparation campaign, log on to myfreetaxeswa.org. World Relief Western Washington of Kent is looking for volunteers to work in its Paradise Parking Plots community garden. Paradise Parking Plots is a 2-acre garden that provides spaces for refugee, immigrant, and Kent residents to grow cultural foods and reconnect with the soil. World Relief will train volunteers to do tasks such as weeding its food forest, controlling pets and diseases, and taking part in construction projects. For more information, log on to worldrelief.org/Western-WA and click on the Get Involved page. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by generous donations from people like you. Please send all comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglass@uwkc.org. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn via @UnitedWayKC. And to learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.